The American public was totally panicked by what happened in the fall of 2008. They were frozen in place. And that fell over into the real economy. And they just changed their behavior. And it took a little while to get over that. And the government helped them get over that. I give great credit to both administrations for helping.
What specifically did they do right?
They jumped all in. In September of 2008, when people were panicked about their money market funds, the government came in and guaranteed it. When companies were panicked about issuing commercial paper, the government came in and guaranteed it. I mean, they took action. Didn't have to be perfect. But what people needed to know was that their government was going to take action, because it was the only entity that could stop what was going on.
So we put a bit of a stop to it right now, is what you're saying. But unemployment, like you said, it's still high, and people on Main Street don't necessarily feel the recovery yet.
Yeah, they're probably feeling a little bit of the recovery. But if you take some of our larger businesses, the ones that serve industry, we are hiring people now. Now we're not back up to where we were 3 years ago or anything of the sort. Some of our consumer businesses that are tied to residential housing are not hiring yet. They will be in 6 months or a year. The demand is coming. You can feel it. And I wasn't saying, I'm not a Pollyanna on this. I wasn't saying this 6 months ago. March and April have been very strong, and I just see that in our companies. Not in every single entity. But when demand comes, employment follows, and that's what's starting to happen now.
You're not a Pollyanna, but you have said you can't bet against America and win.
Absolutely.
And you still believe that. What is it about America that makes this country so resilient in your view?
Well, it's rule of law, it's equality of opportunity, it's a market system. I mean, we aren't any smarter. In 1790, we weren't any smarter than 290 million Chinese. We only had 4 million here, 100 million people in Europe. And look what happened. I mean, a mere 220 years. And this is a transformed society from a couple
It is transformed. And people would look at the U.S. right now and say, okay, maybe some of your naysayers would say we have this growing debt. We have population statistics that aren't in our favor, and we're not exporting anything. We're not creating products.
We're exporting 12% of our GDP, and in 1970 we were exporting 5% of our GDP.
So we're doing all right there, but what about the debt?
Well, the debt, we came out of World War II with our debt at 120% of GDP, and now it's less than 60%.
Right.
No, this country, we don't avoid problems, but we solve problems, and we'll never avoid problems. I mean, the idea that somehow, we're just going to all live in some trouble-free world isn't going to happen.
Right.
But we have come through. We came through the Great Depression, World Wars. We came through a civil war. I mean, we've come through bank panics. This country works, and it always works.
And how do we make it work this go-round? Are people going to have to pay a lot of higher taxes down the road as a result?
They're going to pay somewhat higher taxes if they want from government what they apparently want. I mean, in the end, you can run modest deficits, but you can't run huge deficits year after year. I mean, we are running a deficit, maybe over 10% of GDP. If you could run a deficit of over 10% of GDP, and nothing bad would happen, we would have been doing it a long time ago. It has consequences, but we can tackle that. I mean, again, at World War II, the deficit was a huge percentage of GDP. Now, the problems are there, and they have to be addressed, but nothing is going to sink this country. If you want to bet against America, you're going to lose a lot of money.
We do have a trust problem in this country. A lot of people have lost faith in their institutions as a result of this crisis. How do government and institutions restore that trust?
It comes back slowly. I mean, you lose it fast. It's like fear. Fear comes on fast, and confidence comes back slowly. And there's no question about that. That will take time.
And take Goldman Sachs, for example, one of your big investments, $5 billion you have with that company. Do you still trust them?
Absolutely.
Do you think, what will you do if America loses some trust in that company?
Well, they've lost some trust. I mean, that's happened because of the news cycle. But they lost trust in Solomon when I was back there in 1991. And they won it back over time. They lost it a lot faster than they won it back.
Do you have a recommendation for how Goldman Sachs could help restore that trust right now?
My basic recommendation about any kind of problems is get it right, get it fast, get it out, get it over.
So what is getting it right? Yeah, that is easier said than done.
Yeah, right.
Getting it right, does that mean maybe new management,
some
kind of changes there?
It means getting the correct factual story out. Now, on that Friday when it was announced, they totally missed the news cycle, and by Saturday morning, virtually all of America had an opinion of what had happened, and they only heard one side of the story. And there's no question in this world of instant communications that if you miss a news cycle, you've got a lot of catching up to do. I mean, it's a big mistake.
Financial regulation is what's on the table right now. Would it have solved the crisis before if it was on the table then, and will it solve future crises?
It's hard to know on the past. There were a whole lot of things. The biggest thing that led up to that crisis was the fact that everybody in America, whether it was Congress or you or me or mortgage lenders or you name it, thought that house prices couldn't fall off a cliff. And that, everything fell out of that. So who knows? But we keep making steps in the right direction in this country. I mean, when we started out, we said a black was 3/5 of a person, right? We said women couldn't vote, all sorts of things. So we're a work in progress still in America, but it's a terrific work in progress.